Now that we've looked at labor demand, labor supply, and equilibrium, we're now going to turn to some of the ways that labor demand and or supply are impacted. And the first is with human capital. So workers just in general, workers can increase their marginal revenue product and their pay by investing in their stock of skills, all right, so their overall ability. And this is what is called human capital. Now, unlike a lot of non-physical jobs, an athlete's physical abilities do wear out or depreciate with their age, but at the other side, their skills may increase throughout their careers. So an important difference between human and physical capital is that a firm can generally transfer physical capital, all right, machines and whatnot, to another firm by selling an asset. Human capital, however, is embodied in the individual, right, who cannot sell his skills to another player. Okay, so anything that one player learns can't be just transferred to another to increase their skill. So when you look at human capital theory, it divides investment in human capital into two types of training, general or specific. So when a player receives specific training, he becomes more valuable to his current team than other teams. So for example, when a football player goes to a new team and learns that team's playbook, okay, that training only makes him better to that specific team. If that player was to go to another team, that training just on the playbook would not make him better on that team. Now, general training, on the other hand, makes a worker or player more productive to all firms or teams. And so, for example, if a player is with a team, let's say he's a wide receiver, and on that team he gets more training on catching drills or to run different routes, all right, that will help that player for whatever team he goes to. It makes him more valuable to not just the current team, but all teams. So just a couple other topics here. Rank order tournaments. All right, so let's talk about that for a second, tournament theory. So in some sports, and well, a lot of sports, small differences in performance can translate into huge difference in compensation. And this is especially true when you start talking about individual sports. So for example, in 2017, Roger Federer won the men's singles championship in the Australian Open. All right, it was a very close match. He beat Rafael Nadal. All right, it was a close match against two of the better, if not best, players in tennis at the time. So their skill levels were not very different, and especially not on that day. But Roger Federer, who won, got $3.7 million, while Rafael Nadal only got about half that amount, $1.9 million. So this difference becomes even more drastic when you consider that the player who's eliminated in the second round earned just $30,000 more than a player who was eliminated in the first. So if you go from first to second, the prize difference is $30,000. Or sorry, if you go from getting knocked out in the first round versus the second round, the prize difference goes to $30,000. But then if you go all the way up, all right, to still just advancing one more level, going from the runner-up, second place, to first place, the difference was about $1.8 million. Okay. So in these cases, it's relative productivity, which is winning, that is more important than absolute productivity. Now, since the order of the finish is the only way to measure it, it is known as a rank order tournament. All right. So in a lot of cases, it can be very difficult and expensive to measure the marginal revenue product. And this is particularly true in sports, when performance can depend on a multitude of factors that have nothing to do with individual ability. All right, especially talking about team sports. And a prize structure in which an increase in the reward grows as the player moves up the leaderboard gives athletes a powerful incentive to really do their best. Now, this highly uneven distribution of the purse appeals to the most basic of economic tenets, which is self-interest. So players will do whatever they can to just be better than the player below them, because that can result in big jumps in pay. So if you assume that contestants maximize the difference between the benefit of winning the prize money and the cost of effort. Okay? Now, organizers of a tournament, tennis or golf, want to provide an exciting contest to which all players try hard. So if effort is very costly and rises with the degree of effort, the marginal cost curve is positive and upward sloping. Okay? So this shows here effort. So if the marginal cost is rising at a faster pace, you're going to see that effort, the more effort you put out, the more costly it becomes. And if you think about more in just basic terms, the reason why is that the more effort you put in, the more harm it puts on your body. Okay, and so it can really add up to the cost of it. Right? So if organizer one because of this, if the prize difference wasn't that big, all right, let's say from between first and second was let's just say 1,990,000. All right, you wouldn't get that strong a competition between the top two players, because either way, they're not playing for much, because when they get to that point, if it's first or second, if there's not much of a difference in prize, they're going to say, all right, well, whatever, it's I'm going to win this much either way. I'll do good, but there's not that much on the line. But by having that big difference, all right, you have players that are really putting out a lot of effort. Okay. So now let's just talk about the idea of superstars. So the superstar effect refers to the differences in incomes that are disproportionate to the differences in performance. So this figure here shows the situation facing two brain surgeons. Okay, so if both brain surgeons are equally skilled, they both receive the same pay, which is W0. Okay. Now, suppose one brain surgeon is just slightly better than the other. Now, you would think, all right, well, he's slightly better, so maybe there'll be a little more demand. It's not the case. That small difference in ability, that being known as being the best, is very, very big. And so that even slight difference will cause that person's demand, let's say D1, to be much higher. And so because of this, you're going to see a big jump in the top surgeon's pay relative to others. Sports and entertainment are particularly prone to superstar effects, especially now with the media making it possible for everyone to see what the best players or entertainers are doing. So the salary structure as a result of this in team sports is highly uneven as well. So in 2016-2017 season, the Cleveland Cavaliers had LeBron James. Now, he alone accounted for about 1/3 of the team's cap space. Right? And then you had James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving, the three top players on the team, being about 3/4 of the space. Now, while athletes may benefit from the superstar effect, others benefit even more. Right? And when if you're the best in the sport, you can get more endorsement deals, you can get more notoriety, and that's going to lead to more money. And so just that being a little bit of difference can cause a lot of good, it can cause even larger differences. So there are some dangers of superstar tournaments, superstar effects. Now, the large spread can have negative effects on the behavior of players, them doing whatever they can to get to that point. Right? It can result in selfish play. Right? So if you're not considered a superstar, if you're not considered better than everyone else, right, you may think of your own individual interests in terms of self-interest. And this can undermine the cooperation that teams need to succeed. This can also cause, if you look at this where it could impact the team, that can really have people and economists thinking, is it really worth it? All right. So yes, you get more effort out of people, but does that effort impact the team negatively, and by how much? And I mean, in extreme cases, you can have outright sabotage. You can have cheating in sports. For example, with Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan in figure skating. Tonya Harding's ex-husband confessed to harming Nancy Kerrigan ahead of the Olympics. And so this can really cause cheating and sabotage, which can be a problem. Another problem is performance-enhancing drugs. Baseball was negatively impacted by the steroid era, when you had players who were taking steroids as a way to improve their performance, all right, to be the best, be considered a superstar. Which, okay, that was good for them, and they realized kind of this just basic idea of the rank order tournaments and superstar effect. But when it was discovered, it negatively impacted baseball as a whole. And so what happened was, when baseball put this pay structure in place, right, it ended up causing players to take steps to attain it, which, when it was discovered, ended up hurting the game. So these are a couple ways of looking at the superstar effect and seeing the negative impact that it can have on sports.